Tony George back in Vegas. Good to see you, man. We're talking your Chiefs. Here we go again.
Yeah, I know. Hey,
boring.
come on. I got to support. Not saying that's where my bet's at, but my heart's there.
I know your heart's there. I don't know if your bet's there. We're going to dive into it. We're going to find out if your bet is where your heart is. I know you don't bet with your heart. You bet with your mind like we do over at DocSports.com. Oh, by the way, I wanted to jump into this before we get into the heart of the matter here, that folks, if they've never become a member at DocSports.com, it's a real cool way to give it a trial run, as you know, Tony. Folks, just click on that link below the video, get yourself set up for a free $60 account.
You know it, and
you can use it on anybody's daily packages.
That's right.
What was that?
And no strings, no hassles comes the profit guarantee. But think about this. I was reminiscing the other day, Scott. We're both from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Lincoln boy, Omaha boy. Now you're basically a Vegas boy now, but I was thinking about the face of Doc Sports is we brought in some new blood, some young blood that's doing some awesome things over there. But as I was looking at all that, I figured out 33 years in the business here. How many for you?
Yeah.
About? Okay. About.
I've been doing this for 91.
Yeah.
4 years.
I started up in Lincoln, Nebraska in 92. Of course, I had to scratch my way in to make a living here for quite. You were already on television and famous at that point in time. But I was looking at that in the age. I said, you know what? You and I are still the foundation of Doc Sports, the old timers.
Right.
And we're still kicking butt and taking names. So I think I think it's great that we've got some new blood in there mixing it up, and there's going to be a lot more shows and stuff coming on. So if you're not over at DocSports.com or on our YouTube channel right here, hey.
Oh, you know what happened is I got out here at the age of 17, right out of high school. 2 saxophones, $600, and like 3 shirts and 2 pair of pants in a Volkswagen, little tiny Volkswagen. That went about 15 miles an hour full speed up the Rockies coming to western Omaha, and thinking I was going to break down. But got into radio at about 19 or 20. And 2 years later, I landed the Stardust line with Seed Williams and Dave Koken, the late, great Dave Koken, and all those guys. And we did that every Saturday night of the Stardust. And that's what got it going. And good old Jim Feist happens to see me one day. And next thing you know, I'm working for Jim and the gang over there for many, many years. Probably, I can remember, it was August of 89 until about 2009 when he got rid of the company, sold the company. And I'll just never forget those 20 years, man. It was something else. And when you're that age, which a couple of our guys, Nick and Griffin, are right now, you're just sitting there going, "This is the coolest thing I've ever been involved in." It's like, so here we are. We've made we got 60 plus years of experience.
But they don't have to run down to the grocery store on Monday morning and buy the paper so they can review all the box scores. They just pull it up on their laptops. We're old school, man.
There was a place here in town, Hometown News. I had to think about it for a second.
Yeah.
Guys like me, Larry Ness, all that gang from back then. We'd make 2 visits a week to Hometown News. And what Hometown News was this little storefront property. And you go inside and they've got the newspapers from all over the country, the big cities for the most part. And we'd go in there and grab the sports pages and all this. And then Jim would actually pay people who were flying into town to bring in their hometown newspapers when they came into town. And so that's how we used to get the news and dig into the beat writers for all the newspapers. So everybody right now is saying, okay, enough of the remember when. So let's talk about what's to come, which is going to be Sunday.
That's right.
6:30 p.m. Eastern time. We got your Chiefs again, currently laying about a point and a half. We've seen it come down a smidge. The total, I got to ask you right off the top of the bat, the total, which was like 49.5 when it opened, right around there, has dropped. And usually guys who want to play the under are going to wait until the weekend of the game because, this is the one game that the public can influence a little bit.
Right.
Excuse me. Because they get so much public action. So that total, the public wants to see points. So they bet the over every single day leading up to the Super Bowl. And then about Friday night, Saturday, they just jam it out on the over.
Right.
Books have to, put up the total a little bit. It's been a little bit different this year.
Yeah.
Because sharps are not waiting for that reaction from the public. They jumped on it, moved it under 49. And I tend to like it. I haven't bet the total yet.
Yeah. I'm
kind of hoping it goes back up a little bit, maybe game day, and then jump on that under if we get a good number. But just your thoughts on the total as we look ahead.
I'm with the, I hate to say I'm with the sharp. I thought it was going to go under. Now, I don't have a totals play on the game except for the first half. And I'll tell you, I like the under 24 in the first half. I mean, I just think Philadelphia is going to want to come out. They're going to want to establish that run. They're going to want to take Barkley. They're going to eat that clock. They're going to want to keep Kelsey off the field.
Sure.
And conversely, I'm not so sure, how Kansas City's offense is going to perform against this Philadelphia defense, especially in the middle. They're going to have to attack the outside corners. So they're going to have to take some chances. Reed's going to want to try and run it or do, innovative type stuff. Him and Nagy are going to come up with some sort of game plan because they know if they just bang it up the middle. So I think you got kind of a wait and see what works type, first half approach. Kansas City's a slow starter. They have been notoriously all year long. And they've been slow starter in Super Bowls, and every single Super Bowl they won, they've been down double digits. And so I think the first half is a lot more attractive to me on the under than the game.
Yeah,
I think maybe don't you think in the second half then they can start opening it up and okay, it's time to. It's like a racehorse. You're kind of holding it back till that third turn. Say, okay, here we are. It's home stretch now, baby.
Yeah,
and they let it go. And I kind of think that's maybe kind of the game you're going to see more of a strategic approach up front in the first half and the second half.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to pull out all the weapons and A.J. Brown and Worthy and all the stars and the two great tight ends, they got in this football game.
Goddard and Kelsey. How could you ask for anything better than that?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable the star power that's on this field, the coaching power on both sides. The two defensive coordinators are just awesome defensive coordinators, legendary defensive coordinators, which I think why, in my opinion, the defensive coordinating coaches are garnering a lot of attention. That's also the sharps are thinking they may have the edge versus over the offensive coordinators in the game.
Yeah, I like that Philly doesn't have to be, they don't have to gamble on defense.
No.
There's not a lot of blitzing. They're not gambling. And we've seen years ago, Philadelphia blitz too much. And they've got a great coordinator now he can get to a quarterback with four down linemen in a 4-man rush. So, and then you mentioned the second half when they started to open things up.
Yeah.
There's been many, many Super Bowls when I bet the over for the second half. More points in the second half than in the first half.
Absolutely.
And, I haven't done that yet, but I'll be looking at the prices again as we get a little bit closer to game day. One of the props, and we're going to talk about props, and we're going to get to the side, who we like at the side and all that kind of stuff in a bit. But one of the props I did jump on, it's kind of funny, Chuck Esposito at the Station Casinos, obviously here.
We used to do the Gridiron six-pack over there.
Yes.
When me and you was TV stars at Doc Sports.
Yeah, that's what they said. They tried to tell us that.
Yeah, good old Chuck.
40 years ago was the Chicago Bears Super Bowl win, the shuffle, of course, Mike Ditka and all that. And the first prop of notoriety was Chuck Esposito and Art Manteris at the Westgate, and will Refrigerator Perry score a touchdown? Because they had started doing that the course of the 85 season where they would hand him the football near the goal line, and he would generally score at 300-plus pounds and knock guys out of his way. And so that was the first one that really got national attention. Now, since then, we've got 25 pages, 3,000 props, all that kind of stuff. And we'll get into the do's and don'ts of props in a second.
Well, let me ask you a question about the props. I want to get this because I've been saying this. Anybody that's watching my daily free play videos over there, Docs, and even some of the shows, the Six-Pack Show and other shows I've done on there, I've been talking about, it's very difficult side and total to hit 56, 60% a year. I still think right now the prop market is soft. I think it's soft. Your thoughts on that? Because I keep saying the books, how quick they are to react to market trends on sides and totals.
Sure.
But in the prop market, they're not quick to react on those market trends. I'm seeing like riding Matt Gay for the Indianapolis Colts this year on over and under. They were horrible in the red zone. He was kicking 3, 4, 5 field goals a game.
Right.
And it would go -1. Is he going over under 1.5 field goals? And after he ran like 7 games in a row, they finally bumped it up from 115 to 120.
Sure. Now,
if that was a side or a total play in an NFL game, they would almost overreact.
Right.
Even though there's a ton of props in this game, there's still a soft market for these props in this game.
Well, I always say, first of all, what I was talking about Chuck is I learned from him many, many, many years ago when I was a young guy in the business. The books have a template for the Super Bowl, for the props, since Jay Kornegay kind of made it famous at the Imperial Palace in the 90s. And, they'll have their template. They'll have X amount of props that they use every single Super Bowl. And then what they'll do is they'll adjust the individual and the player and the team props, accordingly with the new teams that are in and the new players and all that kind of stuff. But there's a template that they start with. Probably 70% of their props are from that template.
Yep.
So I thought, well, if the books are doing that, I got to do it. And this is years ago. And I've got a template. And there's like 3 props that I play every single year. Now, I just told everybody, grab my props at Docs this year, and then you'll have 2 or 3 of them every single year.
Yeah,
You'll never have to search for them again. But, one of those and it leads back to, we just made a long story out of it, what could have been a short story.
Yep.
But it leads back to more points being scored in the second half of the football game.
Right, exactly.
And one of those props that I play from my template every single year, and it's won 9 Super Bowls in a row, is will there be a score in the final 3.5 minutes of the fourth quarter? I play it every year. It's generally speaking, you got to lay sometimes $1.70. I'm okay with that. And you don't go crazy with it.
You got to be hitting 70%.
It's won 9 in a row, 9 Super Bowls in a row.
It's got to be at least that.
2 scores in the final minute and a half or whatever it was last year in the Super Bowl. Teams are, if they're up, it's not like the regular season where they're going to play not to lose. If they're up, they're looking to score more. If they're behind, it doesn't matter how much they're behind. They're firing that football.
Is that regulation?
Downfield, fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter.
Final 3.5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Right.
So it's graded after the fourth quarter,
Right.
Those 3.5 minutes. So that is one of the template props that I play each and every year. I generally only have 5, maybe 4 to 7 props per season. This year I had 4 because the advice that I have is do not tie your props to the team you think is going to win.
Exactly.
The football game.
You get tunnel vision.
Oh my gosh. I'm not going to mention the handicapper / better. You know him. I'll tell you off the air.
Okay.
Because I didn't ask him if I could mention this. He'd probably say, yeah, go for it.
We like to talk about other handicappers behind their back on the off the air.
Well, we'll talk about it off the air. Well, the thing is you know him well, and he's probably told you. And if I called him beforehand, he would have said, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
So we're talking Peyton Manning when he came to the Broncos, and he tied all of his props into the team that he thought was going to win the Super Bowl. He had 23 props. Not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. He went 2-21. 2-21 kind of destroys a bankroll. And I kept telling him back then, I'm like, what are you doing, man? If you're wrong on the side, if your quarterback gets hurt or anything like that, you're tying all the props, all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that you have that sometimes. It happens even to me.
Right.
A perfect examples is either Thursday or Monday Night Football. Now on the weekend, on Sunday, I spread it around on a bunch of different games. I'll have 5 or 6 plays, but you kind of think in your mind, because we're picking the side in total. We're doing this for a living.
Sure.
You're thinking, okay, we're going to have Kirk Cousins, quarterback for Atlanta before they finally benched him because they needed to, playing Team B.
Right.
And so you kind of think in your mind, this is how the game's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And, they can't stop the run, so they're going to run Robinson the whole game, this, that, and the other. Well, he comes out there, throws 3 picks. They're playing from behind. And all of a sudden, what you thought was going to happen in the game with that one particular team didn't happen because of whatever reason. And now they're not even thinking about running the ball. They're throwing it every play.
Mm-hmm.
The game plan is completely out the window because they're playing catch up, and that kind of happens in the Super Bowl. If you think Kansas City is going to come out and rail them, or Philadelphia is going to come out and rail them. And so what happens if they shut down Barkley? Yeah. What happens if they hold him down and he doesn't break that long run? And you're playing all the under props on the tight end, on Goddard, on A.J. Brown. You start thinking that's the way it's going to go, and then it doesn't go that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're locking yourself into a losing card.
Let's talk about a couple props. I mean, I just gave you one of mine, one of my favorites that I play every year. What's a couple of props that you're looking at?
There was one I saw, and they were talking about on VSiN the other day, and I got to digging into it. Fourth quarter rushing yards for both quarterbacks. You know what Mahomes is? 4.5 yards in the fourth quarter. What has he been? Has anybody watched him in the playoffs or any of the 4 Super Bowls he's played in? If Patrick Mahomes doesn't go all world in this game, they won't win.
Right.
Well, what do you think he's going to do in the fourth quarter?
Right.
Okay. Same thing with Hurts. And one thing about him that Jalen Hurts, I like him running. Kansas City, they played the last 2 times they played him, they sacked him, I think 7 or 8 times. Mm-hmm. And they had like 12 quarterback pressures in those, and let me tell you something. They're not going to let him take sacks. Chris Jones is going to be wreaking havoc, especially with that offensive line in there that's banged up and kind of iffy right now. Chris Jones, one of the best guys in the league. You know what he's going to do? They're going to tell him, run it. You know, move the chain. 3rd and 6. Going to go back.
You know what my one fear of that is?
What's that?
Not to throw anybody off of that prop. I think it's a good prop.
No.
The caveat is I hadn't seen that yet on VSiN, but you're bringing up a really interesting prop that I'm going to dive into later today. But the one thing that just came into my mind is your starting quarterback with a lead. If he's got the ball in the final minute, he's taking a knee. And that actually won a prop for me a few years ago with Patrick Mahomes. It was like, I forget what the exact number was. Let's say it was 21.5 rushing yards. It wasn't that, something along those lines.
Right.
And he had like 26.5 with a minute to go, and he took 3 straight kneel downs.
Yep.
It went under. I cashed my bet. It was like, you probably remember, it was one of the biggest.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, one of the worst beats if you had the over.
Yeah.
And that's the one caveat that I throw out there is if Hurts has the ball or Mahomes, and you're in the final minute, the other team doesn't have timeouts, you're taking a knee, and every time you take a knee, you're losing 2 yards.
Yep.
That's the only thing that comes into that mix. And I'm always looking for why I should play on a team or a prop and why I should maybe not play on that prop.
Yeah.
It might not be enough to sway you off and over, but that is a thought.
I always and my thing is this, or I really think that both these quarterbacks are going to have a lot of yards running the football in this game. I think they're the stars of their team.
Sure.
And
I'll say Saquon Barkley a little bit more than Hurts.
Yeah, a little bit more than Hurts. But at the end of the day, I think that if either one of these teams are going to make moves and move chains, it's going to involve the quarterbacks running the ball. Yeah, and I think this is going to be a tight enough ball game down the stretch. I'm worried about somebody taking a knee, but I think this thing might go right down the wire. I hope it does.
I'll throw one more at you, then you get one ready.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about who we like in the game as far as the side is concerned. This is one from the template, Tony. It's shortest rushing touchdown under 1.5 yards, over or under 1.5. No, will the shortest touchdown be less than 2 yards, be 1.5 yards or shorter? And this is one that's cashed 7 of the last 9 Super Bowls, 9 of the last 12 Super Bowls. You get down there around the 1. It happens a lot. And the reason I like it more this year than last year.
Push.
Brotherly shove, baby. Brotherly shove.
Like mine think alike.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, last year it didn't come into, it didn't hit. And so that meant it was like 7 of 8 before that in the previous 8 Super Bowls. So I'm thinking you get down there and you saw it against the Commanders with Philly.
Yeah.
They get down there, they're going to run that tush push until it scores. And they did it like 3 times in a row when they got inside the 2 against the Commanders. So you've got that. And there's a couple more things adding into that. Philadelphia's got more than a dozen touchdowns of 1.5 yards or less this year. And Kansas City is the second worst in all of football in giving up the amount of first downs or touchdowns of a yard. They're the second worst in the NFL. Yeah. They don't stop them. So, and this is no knock against KC, but they're not stopping the tush push.
No one is.
Exactly.
No one is.
It's impossible. And so it's a situation where I thought, you know what? And by the way, the price is 20 cents higher than it was last year.
I'll bet it
was.
Which
shows you that the books are thinking the same way.
Oh, yeah.
And I do like that. That's from the template also. What's
I like the way that in Baltimore, they didn't want to bang Jackson up in there. I like how the Ravens later in the year just started bringing Mark Andrews to play quarterback.
Exactly.
And do the push
with that big body. Yeah.
Interesting. Yep. You're seeing Lamar Jackson shove him in the him in the ass to get him in there and bringing in the big body.
Yep.
The one thing, Hunt scoring a touchdown for Kansas City is still a plus number. It was around plus 130.
Okay.
They're going to bang him inside down there.
Sure.
He's their guy.
Yeah.
I think that I will tell you right now that I'll have a premium card at Docs. So I'll release mine on Sunday morning. Those out 8:30 Pacific, I think. Right. They go live. So you got plenty of time till 3:30 Pacific to get them in. But that probably is going to end up being a premium.
Okay.
Premium one. I've been watching them obviously all year long. I went to the playoff games there in Kansas City. And they used to utilize him big time down around the goal. Pacheco has not been the same since that injury.
Right.
I mean, last year he was a fire plug. He was electric.
I got something on that.
Yeah.
You want to know how?
Hit me with it, brother.
And I haven't played this yet, but it's been on my mind, and I've waited a little bit, and it's dropped a couple of yards, unfortunately. I'll tell you the difference between Pacheco 2 years ago and now. When these two teams played in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, Pacheco's over-under for rushing plus receiving yards was 66.5. You know what it is this year? 28.5, down from 30.5.
I know.
Which shows you how much they're relying on Kareem Hunt and have gotten away from Pacheco. And his numbers and his time on the field too has dropped over the last several weeks. So you never know. It's Andy Reid. He might throw a little wrinkle into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't bet that prop because I lost 2 yards of value already by waiting around like a bozo. But it just shows you the difference between between Pacheco now and Pacheco 2 years ago.
Let me ask you a question as we're talking about running backs. They've been using Worthy as a running back on those jet sweep end rounds. Yeah. That's a real popular public play, the over 5.5 yards rushing with Worthy. And as I mentioned when I opened up the show, Kansas City's not going to beat them up the middle. They're going to have to figure out how to get edge plays outside, stretch plays, and bring in him. And, I think you might be, the thing about Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, they're scripting something. Right. It's not going to be, they're not going to use the same. If Philadelphia thinks, well, they beat us 2 years ago, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. Right. That game plan's out the window.
Sure.
So they're going to come up with some wrinkles and some different things and get some more players involved. I think you'll see Noah Gray a little bit more this game.
Yeah, I like some of his props.
Yeah, I think you want to take a look at that. They use Kelsey as a decoy, which make that 6.5 receptions on him look a little tasty on the under as well.
All right, let's talk about who's going to win the game on Sunday, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I'll kick it off. All right, so the Eagles, we're talking about this on a Thursday afternoon, week of the Super Bowl. And as of Thursday morning, there were still, I would say half the books had one. The other half had 1.5. Kansas City's still the favorite, as we mentioned. The total.
You think it'll land at pick 'em?
I actually do. I
thought it might even flip.
Yeah, John Murray at the Westgate thought it was going to close Philly 1.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think pick is probably where it stops. We'll see. Of course, like I said, the public does tend to actually have a little influence on this one game. But I'll tell you what I like here. The battle in the trenches, I think, is going to be won by Philly on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Now, don't throw anything at me, all right? I know it's your Chiefs.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet, but you're buying drinks when the show's over.
There you go.
You got the first 2 rounds.
Saquon's number 1 in yards after contact. And that's not even talking about the blocking by the offensive line. A.J. Brown is a damn good blocking receiver. My God. That 60-yard run.
Plus, he's uncoverable.
Exactly. That 60-yard run by Saquon against Washington, opening play of the game. Go back and watch it. Anybody else watching this, go back and watch it on YouTube, and you're going to see A.J. Brown blocking at the point of attack, which was amazing. And if he doesn't make that block to turn the defender inside, Saquon probably doesn't get outside and doesn't go for it. Probably gains 2 yards instead of 60. So I like that. Spagnuolo, his blitz schemes are going to have to be tampered down a bit. You can't get over aggressive against Philadelphia. So we're going to see, I think, less gambling by KC's defense. And I got to tell you, up front, at left tackle especially, I'm not as enthused about this Kansas City offensive line as the years past. Love Patrick Mahomes. As much as I like Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes is the man. I like Andy Reid over Sirianni. But when I look at who can run the best, who can tackle the best, who defends the best, and the best offensive line of these two teams, I come up with a 7-point win for Philadelphia. Have at it. Tell me where I'm wrong, buddy.
Well, I read something. I've been reading a lot of articles. And by the way, there's a ton more props, folks, over at DocSports.com. Sure. Some of the handicappers have their props out now.
Yeah, I do. My props are out there now.
Yours are out now. And this taping this Thursday. So you can go get those prop cards now. That way you get the best number.
And full disclosure, I just told you what I like in the game, the side, and that is the 4-star play over at Docs too. So I don't want anybody to get ticked off because they paid for it after they watched this, and then they say, hey, wait a second, you gave it away for free.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and of course, they're out. Mine will be out Sunday as well. So, and by the way, prop cards are $25.
Yeah.
I just went with a buddy through Arby's last night, leaving the watering hole. It's more than $25 for 2 guys. Go invest $25. And get these prop cards.
Midnight Reuben after a couple of drinks, man. I'm telling you, it's not bad. You could do worse.
Yeah, it is. But I'm just saying, $25. Get over there, check at Docs, and you can get. And if you've never been a member, you get it for free,
right? Because
we're going to park $60 in a new account.
Exactly.
So just want everybody to know that. I was reading something, and I'm going to respectfully disagree with you.
Okay.
And it's not because I'm a Kansas City fan.
You don't even have to do it respectfully.
They said. He does not think, his article, the narrative of the article was, they don't think that Philly can play a perfect game, and you need to play a perfect game to beat Kansas City. Last year, Josh Allen at home as a favorite in the playoffs could not beat Kansas City because they didn't play a perfect game. The next week, Kansas City went to the Ravens for the AFC Championship. They didn't play a perfect game. Kansas City 4-point underdog. They beat them. 49ers beat them for 3 quarters in the Super Bowl, but didn't play a complete game. They didn't sign up for 60, apparently.
Sign up for 57, right?
That's right. Well, the Scott Van Pelt line. But at the end of the day, they beat them.
Right.
Same thing happened this year. I mean, we're talking about a football team here that had one loss with their starters all year long, and that loss was at Buffalo, and that's nothing to hang your head about.
Sure.
That's like back in the day, Nebraska, we had one loss all year, but it was Oklahoma, and they were number 1.
Right.
Same thing. And I thought that was the Super Bowl. I have Buffalo power rated higher than I did Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I'm not sold on Philadelphia's 55 points they hung on Washington, who went in there and turned the ball over, gave up huge plays, and they had a rookie quarterback.
Sure.
So then I do this, and you've already, I'm using your point. Here's Patrick Mahomes and here's Jalen Hurts. What are we talking about? Who's better?
Oh, yeah.
Better quarterback usually wins these Super Bowls. Who's the better head coach?
I had David Tyree and the New York Giants, the helmet catch. That's why I mentioned Tyree over New England when New England was going for undefeated. Yeah.
Yeah. I get you. I get you.
Dan Marino never got back to a Super Bowl after his second year. Best talented quarterback of all time.
And so
I'm just messing with you, Tony.
I know that's okay. I got you, brother. We could do this all day long. We're going to the bar later. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you, I think Kansas, until somebody knocks Kansas, this is their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You know, they have been down double digits in every Super Bowl, and they found ways to win games. They found ways to win last year on the road in the playoffs against both those teams. Everybody had beaten Kansas City until somebody knocks them off. I'm going to ride them.
Listen, now, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
Yeah, the crux of my cards at Docs are first half picks on the site and total stuff.
Okay.
So that's why I got in there. But I do think I until somebody knocks them off, I'm going to ride Mahomes. I just think the kid.
If this will make you feel
magical.
better, I had the Chiefs in each of their last the 2 postseason games this year, included an 8-star play against Buffalo. And
you had an 8 uni on that one?
Yeah. Oh. And so I was the first
newfound respect for you, my man.
Well, the first 2 playoff games, I use your argument. Until they prove me different, I'm going to play them. Right. So now I'm going to stand in front of the freight train that is the Kansas City Chiefs. So there you go.
Well, you're going to look like a brain surgeon, or
Yeah,
I've taken out the garbage on Monday morning.
I've had to do worse, and I've been called worse. Even in my own house. So there you go.
Well, I think it's gonna be a great football game. I'm out here in Las Vegas to watch it, and going to be probably down Circa or somewhere exotic. But nonetheless, I'm hoping that I'm hoping to see history be made. Yeah. I really would like to see. I mean, this is a team. Just think about Kansas. I mean, 7 straight years in the AFC Championship game, won 5 of them. They're the only 2 losses in those AFC, overtime to Joe Burrow and overtime to Tom Brady. Yeah, and then 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. They've won, and now they're going for. I mean, it's a dynasty. And
everybody back home, by the way, hates me for saying I like Philly. I just want you to know that. Omaha's all Chief fans.
Oh, well, I know. The ones that count still love you, brother. But I'll tell you one thing right now. I think it's going to be one of the better Super Bowls we've seen in a while. The last one these 2 played was unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you're going to see some fireworks. Probably the second half more so, but I think you're going to see a lot of strategy by the coaches and the teams and feeling each other out. And I think they're going to open it up. The second half, we're going to have a hell of a ball game. And
well, you know what to do,
looking forward to it.
He's Tony George. I'm Scott Spreitzer. Find all of our plays at DocSports.com exclusively.
That's it.
And as everybody knows, man, you know what to do. Let's put them in the win column.
That's right.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.